Hi friends, thanks for joining me again for another recipe on Aasai Rasai. This is not the usual format, but it might become this in the future with the voiceovers. So anyhow, let's get cooking. I've got my ingredients ready. This is one chicken breast that I am going to be slicing into even strips. I'm waiting for the water to boil, and this big pan is where I'm going to be doing the frying. So this is the little flavor sachet that comes in the instant noodles pack. I'm using Maggi curry flavor noodles, but you can use any flavor that you like. The water has come to a full rolling boil. Now I'm using very high heat, so when the Maggi noodles is added like this, it cools the water temperature down. What we're going to do is bring it back to the first boil. Let's see. So you could break the pieces like this and put, or you could just put the whole noodles. If it's the first time you're making, I think it's easier if you break up the noodles and then boil them, because when you're stir frying, it makes it much easier to actually stir fry the noodles. So cover the pan, bring it to a full rolling boil again. There we go. So continue to boil this for about, I would say, 50 seconds in an open pan, and then you turn the heat off. That way you can stay in control of the texture of these noodles. Otherwise it's going to overboil and become really mushy and soggy when you stir fry, and we don't want that. We want it nice and loose and noodly. So use a spoon to just kind of break up the noodles, and that way they don't stick together and become starchy. And as soon as they're done, when they're perfectly boiled, you see they all kind of sink to the bottom. They're all under the water now. There's nothing floating. So that's your cue. That's when you know, okay, these are perfectly done and it's time to take it out of the hot water. And this you have to do immediately. So what I'm going to do is strain the water, hold it under running tap water, cold tap water, to cool down the noodles, and that reduces the starch and it stops cooking it further. So here it is. I've just rinsed it under cold tap water, and you can see it's not starchy. They're really loose and they move around, and that's a good sign. It tells me that the noodles are perfectly cooked, just as they should be. So the rest of it is pretty easy. We're ready to stir fry, and let's start with the chicken. I'm going to first marinate the chicken in a little bit of the flavor pack, and this is, like I said, was a curry flavor. So I don't need to add a lot of curry powder or anything, but we're going to enhance the taste a little bit with some other ingredients. A note about the chicken, by the way, just make sure that the chicken is cut into even sized pieces. If you want to do little chunks, that's fine. I prefer to do strips because they cook evenly and quite quickly. As long as they're all the same size, you should be okay. I have added a little salt separately because I'm not using all the contents in the flavor pack. But if you are using everything in the flavor pack, I think you can get away with the salt, but we can check for salt later as well. Now I like to add a little bit of lime juice. This is optional. If you don't have lime juice, you could use vinegar. I just like that it balances the flavors, but it's definitely optional. Sri Lankans would like this with red chili powder, but it's too spicy for me, so I like paprika better. But I'm out of paprika today, so I'm using a little bit of Kashmiri chili powder, which has almost the same level of heat, I would say, of black pepper, so it's not at all spicy. And a pinch of dried chili flakes will give that light, mild heat to the noodles. You could add as much heat as you want, but since I'm going to be eating this, I want to keep it mild. So the pan has been preheating on very high heat. I'm just waiting till the water droplets evaporate, and I have a dry pan before adding the oil to avoid splattering. I don't want to use too much oil, but I would add a little more later on if my pan gets sticky. It's not a non-stick pan. It's not seasoned enough that I would have to have less oil. But if at any time you need to add oil, just go easy on it, but certainly you can add some oil. Don't wait till the oil is smoking hot to start stir frying the chicken. As soon as it heats up, because the pan is really hot right now, so as soon as it heats up a little bit, it's safe to add the chicken. And this is going to stir fry for about 4 minutes. I wouldn't do more than 5. So keep stirring the pieces of chicken and make sure that the oil gets on each piece. Now this is what it looks like after 4 minutes. The chicken is almost ready and I'm about to add the vegetables. But I also wanted to mention that typically when we make Sri Lankan style fried rice or fried noodles, there are some vegetables that make it unique. And in Sri Lanka we use green beans, carrots, leeks is a very important component of it. And we also add cabbage sometimes and capsicums. The capsicum peppers are the equivalent of banana peppers here in North America. You could also substitute it with Cubanelle peppers or bell pepper. So once all that has been added, the vegetables have been added, we won't cook it for too long. It's just a quick under 1 minute stir fry. And I thought I will add some raisins and cashews just to make it extra special. Cashew nuts are such a delicacy. And it just goes a long way in making a dish really special. So just reduce the heat slightly just to stay in control of the pan, because it is starting to get dry and burnt and I don't want that. I'm about to add the noodles, so I don't need a lot of heat at this point. I just need enough heat to warm up the noodles. And there you go. So just mix it in nicely. Make sure that all the flavors are evenly distributed into the noodles. You can tell if the noodles have been evenly flavored because they'll all look one color. If you find that there are places like chunks of noodles that are lighter color than the rest of it, that means you know that the flavor has not got into those areas. I've just turned off the heat. We don't need any more heat. But I also wanted to mention that if you feel there's not enough salt or not enough flavoring, then you can use a little bit of the flavor packet, but always mix it with a little bit of water, like about a tablespoon of water before adding it into the noodles. That way you avoid chunks of the salted powder in your noodles. You know what, I just decided to go ahead and add the extra oil. For one thing is, as the noodles are cooling, I noticed that they're becoming too sticky and too bunched up. I do like them to be separate, and the oil is going to help with that. So I'm going to give it a nice stir like this, and then here's my twist to it. I do like the flavor of fresh red onion in my food. So I sliced some onion very thinly, and while the noodles is still warm, I mixed it in. And that infuses so much more flavor into the noodles. If you're looking for a chili paste recipe that'll go with this, check out my microwave chili paste. It only takes 50 seconds to make and has just 3 ingredients. You can find that recipe at the end of this video. Also check out my other recipes of Sri Lankan food and favorites on this channel, Aasai, Rasai. I'll be back with another video very soon. Until then, stay subscribed and thank you for watching.